Today, I speak to Hodler Than Thou. Enjoy.
I was just wondering whether you were having a drink as well.
I'm actually having a Corona at the moment. Just building those antibodies. Yeah, I was going to have a wine, but it's so hot in this house that it wasn't quite doing it for me today. So I'm having a nice cold Corona. What about yourself?
I'm having a boring old Heineken now, but I have a 1950s bottle of White Horse looking at me.
Very nice.
Basically, just old Lagavulin they were using back in those days. So
very nice.
I'm prepped.
Excellent. All right. Well, like I say, we'll just let things flow, and I think the best way to start really is obviously, we've spoken a little bit before, and you were involved in the music industry and still are to some extent, and we'll get onto that maybe a little bit later. But how did you find Bitcoin? Did you stumble across it? Did it suck you in straight away? What was your backstory to how you are now, obsessive about Bitcoin and on Bitcoin Twitter, and we chat all the time? And, how did that happen for you?
Well, I think like with most people, most Bitcoiners now, it takes a couple of touches before you get there. And I was living in a shared house in London. This is about 2010. My wife and I had just got married, and we were being really low time preference even then. So we were living in a shared house to save money, build a deposit to invest or buy property, whatever. And there was one of my mates who was living in a warehouse complex and a bit of a loose cannon who had started mining Bitcoin. Okay. And he was talking about it to me, saying that he had like thousands of Bitcoin, and he was gonna, well, later on he certainly used it on, do you remember a drug called Meow Meow?
Yeah, it was all the rage, like, I don't know,
it was all the rage for a short while.
8 years ago or something.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, he was buying tons of that and ketamine and those sort of things that we were dabbling in those days. So yeah. I didn't at all get it just sounded far-fetched to me. Mm-hmm. And as he was a bit of a loose cannon, he didn't give me any of the sort of monetary policy aspect of it or anything like that. To him, it was just a way to gain drugs for free, essentially. So I kind of slept on it then. I had other things to focus on. And then it wasn't actually until mid-summer 2017, I was on the train to see my parents in Denmark. And I was checking through my email. I got an investment newsletter through. It seems really unlikely that they would have written to me about Bitcoin. And then all of a sudden it triggered my memory of Bitcoin. And basically by the time my 2-hour journey had ended, I had read as much as I could find in those 2 hours. And by the time I got to my parents, I set up my first exchange account and bought a pretty significant sum actually, already then, because I just read about the scarcity aspect, proof of work, and that just made it seem like a no-brainer to me.
Wow, that's pretty amazing for a 2-hour train journey, because for me, it took me many months until I started to wrap my head around it. I actually the same. I chucked some money at it because I was like, this sounds cool. I can see how this could work, but I had lots of questions and concerns and worries that over time all pretty much been debunked. But that's impressive over 2 hours.
Well, I think it was based on the fact that I had, from about 2011 and then for about 4 or 5 years, I fell down into the rare whiskey rabbit hole. Predominantly Japanese dead distillery whiskey. From the 70s, 60s, 70s and 80s. And it sounds really random. So I had very recent experience with a scarce commodity, at least. And on quite a lot, in fact, it was my whiskey collection that bought us the house where we're living now, or the property where we're living now.
Because whiskey's incredibly collectible, and you know what you're doing. I know some people who trade in it, and I know it's quite a serious thing.
some of my quite a lot of my bottles I bought for like 300 and sold for 2,500, 3,000, 3,500.
Wow.
So I think it was that experience that kind of made me think, oh yeah, well, if there's only ever going to be 21 million, then I'll work out the details later. And
Yes.
Of course, I didn't know my ass from my elbow at all. I still don't. We're all still learning all the time. But yeah, it was a good train journey.
And so after that, so you bought some Bitcoin. It made sense to you in terms of scarcity. Did it take some time to really fall down the rabbit hole? Did you first of all just treat it as an investment and think, okay, I understand the scarcity, I'm going to just sit on this and wait, and there's nothing more really to it? Or did you immediately start to consume content and to really start digging deep and learning about this stuff?
A bit of both, really. I mean, it was very much number go up to begin with, but I did start reading immediately about it. Unfortunately, I did, like many others have, I did fall into some despicable shitcoinery for
You stepped in some shit.
I did indeed. And yeah, I mean, well, my dad always whenever I used to make a mistake as a kid, lose some money on something or just lose time time I'd spent on something, he would always call it school money or learning money. And he was like, it's never ever wasted if you just take a lesson from it.
So true.
And that was very much the case with my shitcoinery. And it did take me until February 18 and losing probably 7-8 Bitcoins worth of value to kind of think, I'm never touching this rubbish again. And then the real journey really started, because once you wed yourself to Bitcoin only, all the noise is gone.
It's incredible, that point, isn't it? We've sort of a similar sort of timeline for me. And that point where you go Bitcoin only, I found personally for me, I was like, how the hell was I trying to keep up with all of this stuff? I can't even keep up with Bitcoin development. Wow. I can't even start to dig into all the developments going on with this. So how was I messing around with 15 other shitcoins, all trying to do things that are technically impossible? And that really, when you look at their market cap of the problems they're trying to solve, are nothing in compare, file storage, whatever that is, a few $billion industry. And then you look at like money. It's like money, store of value. Like, it's huge. It's the biggest disruption ever. So
it's the foundation for absolutely everything else. And I did my sort of political shitcoinery, if you like, for many years, living in the metropolis. 15 years in London as a creative. Being surrounded by creatives very much meant that I was buying into this democratic socialist kind of nonsense. And I think the thing is that I was still trying to solve the same problem in my mind then that I am now. It was still based on the fact that I knew that the game was rigged. I just hadn't grokked how. And so I think there's definitely parallels there. You get with shitcoinery as well, you are kind of, I don't know, there's just so much noise and kind of pseudo academic cleverness to sell you a turd, essentially, and it doesn't need to be that complicated.
No, it doesn't. And that moment where you find, I think, especially with Twitter, it takes a while to just refine who you're listening to find a couple of good podcasts, to find a couple of people with good newsletters, to get the quality content. That takes some time. But once you get that and you're in that space where you can flick Twitter on or listen to your favorite podcasts or whatever your favored content is, and you get a feeling for the people that you're listening to over time aren't talking shit. and aren't that, Lambo boy nonsense. And you start to get a feeling that, these people actually really are smart and they really do know what they're talking about, and they're not selling me a dream or a lie. And it's just it's just so much nicer, isn't it?
But as you say, it does take time to trim the fat and to cook it down to just pure signal. But I do think, and other people would disagree with me, but I do think most people, whether it's within politics and the sort of echo chamber that I was, the sort of metropolitan do-gooder echo chamber I was in before, or whether it's the shitcoin world, I think a lot of people have the right intentions. A lot of people have intentions of really changing something, and whether it's like file storage or whether it's, I don't know, food shortage or whatever it is, power distribution. There are a lot of really noble causes in there, maybe not file storage, but you know what I mean? The same in politics. But if you are, if you're tugging at the wrong thread, I just don't see nowadays. I don't see how you can have economic justice or environmental justice or social justice without sorting out the money first.
It is at the heart of every problem and everything that we do. And did you almost find that once it clicked with you, you thought, how did I not? Or maybe you might have felt it at times, and in your gut things didn't feel right, but you sort of think, how did I not suss this? Like it's so big, and I didn't quite grasp it. And now when you look back retrospectively, it seems so obvious. And now that it does seem obvious to you, trying to explain it to other people, do you find that frustrating, or have you just accepted that these things take time and take a step back from trying to explain to normies?
Little column A, little column B, I think. I mainly I just feel horribly embarrassed for the way I was carrying on beforehand, before I found this, because I always trusted. I never verified. I think I considered myself a political junkie, but I was just, everything I was getting from sort of The Guardian or some shit rag like that. Because I was busy having a career, not that it's an excuse, never really dove deep into things. And I think most people are like that. Even some family that I have that are sort of super academics, really high up at one of the most elite economic universities, they still buy all this sort of party line without really ever looking into things. And I think that's just very common doing that.
Well, it's a nicer worldview, isn't it?
It makes it easier, sort of in terms of workload and yeah, I don't know. So I try not to be too harsh on the normie that don't get it, because I think if somebody had kind of pontificated or borderline lectured me on monetary policy and anything else on top previously, I probably wouldn't have been very receptive, I think. So nowadays I try to just do it in, because I do have a tendency of verbosity, if that's a word, isn't it? Verbosity. And probably I'm a bit of a know-it-all.
Join the club.
So I don't know whether that is a Bitcoiner thing as well, but
I think so.
But yeah. So I try to sort of refine my delivery, but I have had it's a wet woodpecker sat out on the fence. So I do try to go easy on people. But I have managed, I have pretty good track record now. Even my in-laws, who are quite statist, are whole coiners now.
I saw that. I think I wrote you, I was so jealous when I saw that, because you'd written about, I think it was your father-in-law stacking and
my dad, he's got like 20 Bitcoin now. I don't know what the fuck he's doing. It's just once he took his money out the stock market, he was just like, I need more exposure to Bitcoin.
Oh, what a legend! Literally, from my whole family, my entire family, not one sat between them.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, not one sat. And even though I've done relatively well with my investments previous to Bitcoin, with my properties and other things I've been involved in, they just laughed in my face. Literally just like laughed in my face. But at the same time, they're buying the stock market dip because their financial advisors have told them it's definitely going to go up forever. And so I've tried for a long time, and I actually started this podcast. Part of the reason was so I could say, look, you know, you won't listen to me here, but maybe you'll listen to some other smart people that I'm speaking to. But no, I think maybe that's just a family thing, because the rest of my friends and family, the rest of my friends have started buying. It took about a year, but they've all now started to convert, and they're all getting to that stage where they'll send me articles and say, oh yeah, well, you know, what's this halvening thing? And what's this? And I'm like, yes. It's a nice feeling.
That is really good. Because also it's a bit, I mean, it's a godsend to having Twitter. I was trying to stay away from social media. I'm sort of a bit of a retrograder in many ways, you know. Moved out into the middle of nowhere and basically knit my own lentils now. That's a piss take way of saying just, you know, we have
you grow all your own.
Yeah, exactly. A bit of a hippie existence.
Awesome.
But yeah, where was I?
Social media. You were talking about finding Twitter.
Exactly. So I didn't find Twitter until early 19, I think. And all of a sudden it was just like, fucking damn it. Why wasn't I on here like years earlier?
Yeah.
It's just so much incredible content. So many, I mean, it's humbling, you know, and being in touch with so many incredibly talented and gifted and introspective and terrific people. It really, I mean, there's a discussion about whether there's a Bitcoin community or not, but certainly the community around Bitcoin is fantastic.
What's your thoughts on that? The whole, you know, is Bitcoin a community? Is it not? You know, how do you view it? How does it feel to you?
I mean, Bitcoin is network effect, isn't it? And so it stands to reason to me that certainly part of that is community driven. I know Bitcoin does its own thing, but you know what? To me, it's not really that important whether Bitcoin is a community or whether there is just a community around Bitcoin. To me, that's kind of semantics. Or
it feels like it sometimes, though. You know, sometimes when you say you're on Twitter for a couple of hours and you're chatting to the usual suspects and you're having these conversations, and then you step back into the real world, and sometimes what I find this is like, I have a lot more in common with a lot of the people that I speak to on Twitter than I do with most people in life. And it's not all just about Bitcoin. You know, we talk about, with Daniel talking about homeschooling, or with people talking about diet, or talking about being accepting of people using different substances if it helps them for certain reasons, or just more that open and introspective thinking, and all these taking responsibility for your own actions. It does feel we have more in common than just an asset.
I completely agree. I think it's a whole sort of value set that is in common, and you can maybe replace one or two things depending on who you're talking with. But yeah, it's really just really truly open-minded and free thinking. And yeah, man, I'm slightly regretting not finding Bitcoin Twitter earlier, but hey, that's how it goes. I'm enjoying it now. Although I have just deleted Twitter from my phone because I realized.
Oh, really?
I have so many things to get on with. I mean, having a 2-year-old that needs lots of attention, and having acres of land that needs doing stuff with, and projects that need to happen.
That sounds like an amazing project. Have you been out there for a while? It's France, isn't it? You? Yeah,
we are. We're in the south of France. I'll set the scene for you. We are. In the middle of the forest, you drive off the main road up to our little village, which is about 10 kilometers away, which is a fair distance away. And it's dead. There's not even a bakery. Then you pass through the village. It gets even more rural. You carry on until you reach a forest, and then you turn off down a little forest track, and you carry on for another 2-3 kilometers until finally you're in this forest valley that kind of opens up a bit, and that's where we are.
Wow.
So yeah, I could just see the roof on the top of the valley of a distant neighbor's house. But apart from that, there's no man-made sound. It's just us, the wild boars, deer, all sorts of birds and rabbits and...
That sounds amazing.
Pine
Absolutely
marten.
awesome.
It was kind of born out of a similar experience that what you told me that you had with your work before we started recording. Of this sort of kind of long, drawn out kind of frustration with the status quo, frustration with being in the music industry. I sort of stopped loving what I was doing. I was taking the piss with clients. I was giving them a half-baked product because I don't like shitty pop, and unfortunately that's what pays. And so I'd sort of, my personal development curve had completely tapered off. I was frustrated with the politics and the sort of increasing polarization there was in England. And I was born in the countryside, and I want to be a master of my own domain. I don't want to live with somebody below me and above me and to either side of me. As fine as, as great as that is, and that rocks some people's worlds, I have no judgment on it. But for me, I want to live somewhere where I can go out absolutely stark as naked in the morning and just walk around and not, do you know what I mean? That sort of freedom, and freedom to make my own decisions all the time. And so finally we decided to, as I said, actually we were just down here on holiday, found this place. We're going for a walk through the woods and kind of came past it and found out that it was for sale, and we just we just have to have it. So
just there and then on the walk, was it?
Yeah, and I think it was only like the following day we had an offer accepted.
Wow.
And then we had to find a way of drumming up some money. So we went back and then sold my whiskey collection, and then shortly thereafter rented our house out in Brighton where we were living. And just got on with it. That was in 2016. We're coming up to 4 years. Yeah. So
you were saying about the polarized political sphere and all the rest of it. That was around Brexity time when everyone was fighting and mad and crazy. It sounds like that was a crazy time. That's one thing with this Corona stuff. Is like at least everyone has just shut up about it. That's like the one positive. I'm like, it's been a while since I've heard someone argue about Brexit from whichever side they sit. It's nice just to have that a bit more quiet for once.
It's interesting, really, how is that your new little dog in the background?
That's my little baby. He's he's with his mum. He's been told to be quiet, but he's getting bored, I think.
I'm absolutely crazy about dogs. So I got 2 dogs of my own.
Oh, you got 2?
Yeah.
Because I think you said you had a collie. Is that right?
I've got a collie cross.
Okay, yeah.
A rescue. I mean, she's hyper as all fuck because she's so intelligent. But as I told you, I think she knows 80 commands.
That's unbelievable.
Commands and sort of like names of toys and general words. So she's a very clever dog, and so I have a very close bond with her because, I mean, I speak to her in full sentences and she still picks out the words. But
yeah, they are.
Back to the virus. I mean, I definitely feel like it has it's unified to a certain extent. It has also divided a little bit further between those who seem perfectly confident or comfortable, I should say, with sort of a burgeoning totalitarianism, and then those who are, do you know what I mean? It's created its own sort of factions.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I'm seeing it definitely in England. I don't know what it's like in France, but I've almost fallen out with people because I've said, I'll do what I want. And it's really, or suggesting, like you said, it is a little bit, it's getting a little bit closer to totalitarian state, and people just don't want to hear it. So I have to keep my mouth shut now.
Yeah.
Just, I talk to people on Twitter and on here, but in normal life, if you go against the grain and the status quo, no, it's not good.
I learned from the whole Brexit debacle to not really discuss politics anymore with family because, I've come, I wouldn't say full 180, but very much as part of my sort of metropolitan, breathing my own exhaust, self-righteous sort of liberalism. I very much felt, and maybe also because I was a European national living in England, I'd spent years paying shitloads of taxes and investing myself in the culture in all sorts of ways, and everything from language and pop culture and financially having several properties there, and I felt quite rejected at the time. And I think from a very sort of almost narcissistic point of view, I had beef with Brexiteers because of that. But again, after discovering Bitcoin, and I do believe in a further sort of balkanization and sort of more national independence is needed. I mean, and Corona has it's kind of that mirror, isn't it? That's being held up to us. I mean, we're seeing what's happening with borders throughout Europe now. All of a sudden, the union isn't that important when it comes to Schengen borders.
Yeah.
You've also seen how the state of our health services, or how little family times most people have together. And that's a whole other subject that Marty, dear Uncle Marty, talks about a lot, about the sort of the degradation of the family unit.
Yeah, it's huge that.
Yeah, and now people now parents there may be together having dinner around the dinner table for the first time, or waking up together for the first time as a family. And I think more people are waking up to how fucked the monetary policies are of nation states, or at least little by little that is happening.
Yeah, questioning.
Economy is, and how decoupled we've become from nature even, to me that was obvious before. People, they just go and buy their meat and eggs, and they have very little sort of knowledge or thought that goes into where it comes from. I mean, we've lost contact and connection to death itself.
Yeah.
I don't see how you treasure life if you don't somehow treasure death. I mean,
yeah, it's a weird one, that, with, like you're saying about this disconnect from death. What you're doing is my dream, to be out in the countryside, away from the hustle and bustle, and to be able to grow my own produce and be self-sufficient. I just think that is, especially when you have a family, is the most natural thing we can do as human beings, I think. And
I agree.
When you suggest to people, I've suggested to people before, I've said, look, I'm never going to give up eating meat. And a lot of my friends are vegans and vegetarians, and that's fine. And if they want to do that, that's great. But I probably won't ever do it. So if I suggest, if I had land, I'd say, maybe I'd go and hunt for my food, because at least if I hunt for my food and I kill it, and I have to actually kill it, then I'm going to be less wasteful. They actually find that disgusting. Whereas those same people who find it disgusting, who do eat meat, are very happy to go to the shop and buy a packet of chicken or beef or something else, because there's almost a disconnect. It's like, oh, well, it's not being killed. It's a packet.
Yeah,
it's weird.
And what they're completely missing, of course, is that they have absolutely no grasp of, I mean, they might kid themselves and thinking because it says organic on the pack that the animal has lived a charmed life. That's not at all the case. And, I mean, I do think that if you really can't kill an animal, maybe you shouldn't eat animal produce. I mean, there's some decent logic in that, for me at least. Well, you do find very quickly, and my wife is a suburban English girl who, like me, I mean, I grew up with beef cattle. You know, my parents had 45 head of limousine beef cattle when I was growing up, and sheep and all sorts.
This was in Denmark, was it?
This was in Denmark, yeah.
I've got some Danish heritage as well.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, so my mother's side, Danes. I had my Mormor and my Morfar and cool. Danish cousins and all of that. I don't speak it anymore. I used to when I was a kid, but sadly, I lost it.
That's why you're such a handsome and agreeable chap.
Yes, exactly.
No, but you know, so I mean, even my wife, who's not at all from that life, and her parents are not at all. I mean, although they do enjoy coming here and they think it's beautiful where we live, they find it very odd that, like, I was skinning a deer here. You know, that particular one I didn't hunt. It was actually one of my dogs that scared it to death. You know, like sheep.
Right.
Heart palpitations, and this one just dropped dead. So of course you don't just leave it to rot. You honor the animal, and so I was skinning that, parting it up, and taking it in to make some lovely linguine or whatever, veal venison linguine. But they find that really gory and off-putting and kind of disgusting. And I'm just like, this is
natural.
This is how we are meant to live. It's only the last couple of hundred years. I mean, it's only really properly since industrialization that we've kind of lost touch with that little by little. And but it's amazing to see with my wife, like how quickly she just came back. She came back proud from from her dog walk today, saying, "Oh, I stomped a mouse to death," because one of my dogs had dug it up and molded a bit, so she had to finish it up, and she was like, "Yeah, I had guts all up my leg."
But she's putting it out as it's misery, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. But she was like, she's really, I could tell she was secretly a bit proud that was something that she could do now. So you adapt very quickly to because, as you say, it's innately in us.
It is, and that freedom, that feeling of being in the countryside, the feeling of that open air, and there's something. It just puts you at ease a little bit more than the city and being around too many high rises and grey everywhere. It just doesn't feel right. And
I mean, there are many lovely aspects to it, and I don't want to come across all like smug and sort of like pious about the way we live. But, you know, like last week I was foraging wild asparagus and Jerusalem artichokes that are just like growing wild. Or I bet next week with a bit more rain, we're going to have shitloads of girolles and seps or porcinis, all sorts of mushrooms coming again. And I bow hunt, so I have a hunting bow.
Oh, really? A crossbow or a bow?
No, a bow, a compound.
Oh, really?
Hunting bow. So that's while cool. It's really fair to the animal to hunt that way, because it is difficult getting anything like that. But
I bet has that taken some time to get to a good enough standard where you can hunt with it.
I mean, I say I go hunting with it. I've managed to kill one pheasant. That's all I've managed in the last year. So I'm hoping to get to a stage where I'm a bit better at it. But I do have an over-under illegal shotgun that a bit, and maybe we'll get into this later. This is a bit for my sort of lower probability thesis that I have that for. Well, mainly for hunting, but also
we sound like we might be aligned protection. Yeah, yeah, we'll definitely get into that, because I think it sounds like we're on the same page there.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's just fantastic. And also, like, when this is a side note and a bit personal, and I promise I won't start I won't start tearing up. But we tried for 8 years to have children in the city, and it wasn't happening. We tried with IVF and all sorts. Moved out here, started drinking the water from our own well, which is fed by the spring on our land. Mm-hmm. And within the year, we were pregnant.
Wow.
So again, it could be down to lots of things, but it certainly was a sign to me that we had, life is about decisions and decision making, and that sort of vindicates me and the decisions we'd made leading up to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, go for it. Actually, if you give me 2 seconds, I'm going to grab another one of mine as well. I'm smashing through it. So
I'm going to open it with a screwdriver because that's all I have to hand. I'm going to pour myself a whiskey. Why not? It's Sunday evening. Bottle is so old. I was telling you, I had a 1950s bottle of White Horse or Lagavulin, as they were back then.
Yeah.
And the cork is so old that it just broke. But the screwdriver that I had to open my beer also managed to pry out the cork.
Is that a low time preference thing? Just refuse to buy a bottle opener?
No, it's just because I'm
extreme.
No, extreme at low time preference. I am actually almost that bad now, but no, it's because a humble brag. I'm sat in our sort of gatehouse or guest house, and I didn't have anything. I've set up a little music studio here for the time being, and I didn't have anything sort of civilized hanging about.
I saw, as we obviously can't have the video going now because of my terrible internet, but the beams there looked absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it's an old. Our house is our main house. Was the old bakery that was a bakery in 1700 something when there was a bit of a community out here in the forest. Now it's the only house standing. And this guest house where I'm now, to get a bit of peace, was an old barn that was partially converted, and that we have done a lot of renovation. Well, we've done a lot of renovation to both houses, but so it's old wood that I'm sure has been milled from the trees just outside here.
It's a lot of upkeep, that sort of place. Keeping it original and keeping it standing is not an easy task generally, is it?
I mean, most of our land is not lawn, but just our lawn around the house takes three hours on the tractor mower, and that's twice a week nowadays. So
put a podcast on and mow the lawn.
Exactly.
That's it.
With my 2-year-old in my lap, he loves riding he sits there for the whole 3 hours. He might have a 10-minute kip, but otherwise he's just sat there looking up at me sometimes with a great big grin.
That's cute. It's amazing when you're younger as well, like just being near a steering wheel. I remember when I was a kid, just like if I was near a steering wheel, it was the most amazing thing.
Yeah. I have a sort of all-terrain vehicle, sort of a side-by-sider ATV with proper seatbelts and seats and roll cage and roof and stuff. But so we go out on a very regular drive on that, where he sits on my lap. Whether we're working, pulling, it has a winch at the front. So when I'm working, cutting down trees in the dense bit of the forest, then we can tie the winch around the bottom of the tree and drag it out if it gets stuck. Cool. He's already loving all that sort of shit. That's
awesome. That's awesome. And you mentioned earlier as well that your wife has now got into the whole Bitcoin thing, and that she's now sort of shilling as much or more than you are. That's the dream right there.
Well, it was because she's a very, very, I mean, apart from being a very intelligent person, she's also a very sensible person, and I am definitely. She claims that I'm always the most emotional person in any room that I'm in, but that's just like that is born out of pure passion. Mm-hmm. My whole life has been driven by ideas, so I've been going from one idea of something to do to the next. I've never believed in a sort of career as such in one subject. And she's much more measured. So when I got really pulled under by the Bitcoin whirlpool.
Yeah.
And she saw it as her duty to kind of stay on her side of the fence and kind of stay reasonable, stay questioning. But little by little, she's just seen, it's just, she hasn't been able to deny the sort of inevitability of truth, really. And, I mean, yeah, so she's, I wrote this on Twitter the other day to my, to my very few, followers, but, that she was saying to me, "Oh, so what do you want to do for the anniversary? It's our wedding anniversary next week as well." So I was like, "Oh, it's not even." Well, she was saying, "What do you want to do on Tuesday?" When she thought it was going to land on Tuesday. I was like, "The wedding anniversary isn't until Thursday, man. What are you doing? You never remember these things." She was like, "No, the halving, you idiot." It's like I've been having blocked 630,000 in my diary under the 12th for ages.
That's amazing.
now, of course, it looks like it might happen on the 11th, but we'll see.
Do you use Clark Moody's Bitcoin dashboard?
Oh, yeah. Of course.
So I've got that up, and it's saying to me 12th of May at the moment. So
that's time zone dependent, isn't it?
Well, it does it. It's local to wherever you're using it. So that would be for me 12th of May.
Of course, I haven't really even considered that. Weird.
But it's 169 blocks away. So it's creeping up. It seemed like a long time away, but it's really creeping up.
And we just had a little dump today as well.
I know, I stacked.
Did you? I haven't yet. So I'm going to do that right now.
Should we both stack on the pod?
That sounds good to me. See, I always, because I'm such a passionate individual, I dropped like 50 grand on Bitcoin about March 11th. And March 12th, of course, we know what happened. And I was like, damn it, I could have had so much more Bitcoin.
It's painful now, but in the long run, it'll be fine.
Exactly. Oh, I'm in the plus now again, so I don't care. But I'm just sat here thinking, do I drop a bit of a wad, or I'm gonna stack 200 euros.
Okay, I'm gonna do the same.
At least enough dry powder if it goes much further down.
That sounds good. I'm going to do the same. Hold on, we'll stack at the same time. You just entered.
I did. Authentication successful.
Right, next.
So that gives me another 0.025.
Perfect. I've got the same. It sounds like you might be using the same app as me. We won't say it on here because but it begins with a W.
Oh no! Actually, I might be.
Oh, no, different one.
On a different one. Unfortunately, I was using Ruben's service, Bitter, for my. But of course, he's now no longer in Binez.
Yeah, so it's been closed down. Have you ever used CoinFloor?
I've used that for all my big purchases since I got. I love. I don't know if it's Obi or Obi, but
Obi, yeah.
Obi. I mean, he just seems like a solid guy and proper Bitcoiner, and I really want to support that.
I recorded with him last night, and I can confirm we recorded, but we also had a chat before and after, and I can confirm he is proper hardcore Bitcoiner. He really is down for the cause, and I really respect what he's doing. It's really good.
So I'm going to start using my, because they've just started or they trialed from March, I think, Auto DCA.
Yes.
So I'm setting that up now that Ruben has closed down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's awesome.
But no,
it's weird.
Carry on.
No, I was just going to say it's weird how not weird, but how DCA has become the sort of go-to, and it's becoming more and more accepted. And I think it's a brilliant thing. It's so good, especially for newcomers.
I agree. I mean, it's a really good way of getting a bit of skin in the game. And for if they feel like they want to get out of it, or I don't know. It's just a really gentle in, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And over a long time. I mean, now with the halving coming up, I'm not sure. I'm just whack it all in, man.
Yeah, that's the same with me. I'm sadly my finances. I'm completely ringed out every single penny that I possibly can. So it's only little bits and pieces now. But literally, me and my supposed to be wife, we had to cancel our wedding because of this corona stuff. So still fiance, but we were going around the house today, taking photos and eBaying everything that we haven't used in the last 2 months that's not necessary, just selling everything so that we can stack.
Man, I respect that. I mean, what it's, I mean, moving always does sort of puts these things into, it shines a light on on how much crap we build up over time of things we just don't need.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's tools.
Yeah.
So much that, like, you know, I might use it once in 5 years, but I also know enough people I can borrow it from. So I'm like, I've got a garage full of tools. I don't need all of them.
Well, see, that's apart from diesel and food when we don't have enough from our own sort of produce. I think tools is probably the only thing I spend money on because, well, I can't get anywhere without tools. So, so it's, I need to, I want to burn all fiat I have left, but, I've had my first tenant default on rent and I don't know whether the other things that we're getting passive income from will kind of, I don't know, it's just a really uncertain year ahead. So while I really want to spunk all my money, put it right inside the womb of Bitcoin, to be really graphic. I just feel like I need to be sensible and just hold them back. So this is gonna do me for a couple of weeks. This little stack now.
Yeah, I think the whole property thing, because, you know, I mentioned you before this call, that was my business, one of my businesses before all of this. And I tried to sell off my entire portfolio over the last 3 to 4 years because, you know, without being a smart ass, I sort of saw what was coming, not Corona, but more and more regulation, that I saw that the markets were topping out. It's just been a pain in the arse. It's been getting more and more difficult, and I haven't managed to get rid of them all. So I have the same issue where at the moment, luckily enough, I've been collecting, but I am very aware that things could change any minute, and there's basically nothing I can do about it without being arrested. So, yeah, you have to be a little bit careful.
It's a very similar story. I mean, we started putting things on the market. I mean, we started thinking about it longer ago, but started putting things on the market this time last year. Because again, I was seeing the same thing, and one of our properties is a nearly 3,000 square foot house, which for American standards is probably just a box, but in England, that's a pretty fucking huge house.
Yeah. We're like hobbit houses over here generally, aren't we?
Exactly. And I was thinking, you know, with the sort of with the boomers selling up and retiring, downsizing, people my generation are largely not going to be after this sort of property. So that's the one I really wanted to get shut off, because obviously they would free up a nice chunk to buy Bitcoin for. But like you, it just hasn't happened. But I'm even at the point now where I don't know. What do you reckon? Because part of me is thinking, if people of, you know, relative decent privilege like you and I are going to be in the shitter at some point, if that's going to be the case, then loads of other people will be. Are they going to allow that to happen, or are they going to keep easing to keep the bubble going?
It's a difficult one. I would think that the property markets still have a way to go down, because anyone who was smart in buy-to-let, I mean, I was heavily involved in buy-to-let 8 years ago-ish, and I was just at the same of just like, every time that the markets would move up, I'd remortgage, I'd buy again, remortgage, I'd buy again. And it just, you'd buy what you could because it was good and you knew that this was a profitable business. But it got to the stage where they changed the rules and made it so difficult for landlords that I certainly lost all excitement and enthusiasm for it. And I was seeing it slowly happening to the people around me. It's no longer as profitable. It's more of a pain in the arse. So there's more properties on the market. And like you were saying, that retirement age, that boomer age group, they're not really going to be getting involved with it so much anymore. So I don't see who the buyers are, because most millennials, unless they've done well for themselves, can't buy.
That's it.
So, we talk about supply and demand with Bitcoin. There's a huge amount of supply, especially with all the new builds going up everywhere. I don't see where the demand's going to come from. So I only see that the prices go down, other than, like you're saying, the quantitative measures that are going to be put in place and all this money printer go brr stuff. Maybe that saves it in terms of nominal value. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I have similar thoughts, but I have reached no conclusion. I think, for me, it was always as a way to store some value, and a way to maybe earn a little, but definitely to not lose money with inflation. And, there's no point having lots of money sitting in banks, as we all know. So that was the reason that we were buying property. It wasn't to be some leechy kind of rent-seeking, blood-sucking creeps. It was basically just to put our money somewhere where we knew it was safe and where it wouldn't devalue. Hopefully it wouldn't devalue. So, I'm not attached to it in any sort of way. It's a means to an end as far as I'm concerned. So, all of the properties we have, particularly because I did a lot of renovation to all of them, to increase the profit, or the value. We could sell it at a significant discount and still be in the plus. Yeah. So there's part of me that's just like, well, opportunity cost. Do I just sell it now for a markdown of say 10% to shift it quicker, and then just whack it all into Bitcoin?
Yeah, I suppose maybe it's not the worst thing that if someone who's holding maybe Bitcoin and property and a little bit of cash is probably not a bad portfolio, because property could still do well. It shouldn't. But, a lot of people are saying, oh, this is it. This is the last time, all this that's going on, all this money printing, all this uncertainty. We've seen how poorly the governments have managed everything. We've seen how bad everything's going. This is going to be the last time. Well, they said that in 2008, and they're saying it again now. And I'd love for it to be true, but I actually think we need another round or two of pain, because
you think we have another cycle?
I don't want it to be. Seriously, I don't want it to be. I want to see this revolution. I want to see people be able to store their value and not be stolen from. I really do. That's why I'm here. But I kind of think there's one more round. And if there is, then I suppose maybe owning property isn't the worst thing. But yeah, I don't want to be. I'd rather have the money in Bitcoin as well, because I'd like to think that people like you and people like I would hopefully make the world a slightly better place than the people who hold the money now, and probably do slightly better things with it.
Exactly. And also, that's how I see I can contribute to Bitcoin. Not that Bitcoin needs me per se, but I'm not a coder. Although, as we've been writing back and forth, you've been studying it. I want to start studying so I can teach my son.
Yes.
But I'm not a podcaster like you. I'm not an incredible intellect. I'm or a speaker. what I can do is hodl. And I'm, I haven't sold a single sat. I'm not interested in that. I'm not here to make more dollars or pounds or euros. So if I take all of the value or most of the value that I have in the status quo in the current system, I move that to Bitcoin and I hodl it. I mean, I can only see that as being, better for bootstrapping Bitcoin. So that's kind of my thinking. And it's so much less complicated, You don't have to deal with maintenance or bureaucracy and the occasional annoying tenant and
occasional.
Yeah, I've been very lucky. I've got some very good tenants. In fact, last year because they're all such good tenants. Last year for Christmas, I sent them all a Trezor one and a copy of the Bitcoin Standard.
Awesome.
And I gave them 20% off their rent for 3 months on the proviso that they bought Bitcoin with it.
Amazing. Okay. Changing one hodler at a time.
Well, my reasoning was to myself was that it's something I can do for Bitcoin. Until more people do. And also, they're helping me with my investments. They're helping me make some money, although I know I'm providing a service to them as well. It's not just one way. So I thought, why don't I help them with an investment of theirs and pay it back? And hopefully that way they will spread their own Bitcoin rants to people they know.
That's an interesting way of doing it, actually. Have you got any thoughts around, would you say to them, if they said, you know what, thanks for sending me that book. It all makes a lot of sense. I really, now that I've dug in, I'm now buying Bitcoin. Would you consider giving them a discount on their rent for Bitcoin if they paid you in Bitcoin? What's your thoughts around that?
Well, maybe I'm just not bright enough to get it, but I don't see what really is the point if I can just buy Bitcoin with the rent that they're paying me.
It's simply privacy. If you look at it in terms of, say you buy a KYC Bitcoin and then you've got to put it through Samurai Whirlpool or Join Market or whatever else. And the cost of doing all of that or buying the cash machine and all that, it will be quite expensive. So say it's 10% more to get a coin that has no links to your identity.
Sure.
Those carry a little bit more value. So some people would say, oh, well, if they're selling a product or service or rent or whatever, they might be prepared to earn a little bit less to have that privacy. It's not for everyone, but I think that's where that value comes in.
Yeah, I get you. I suppose I haven't really spent too much time considering it. Well, I mean, we have some mortgage on all of the properties, so I'd still have to pay my mortgages in fiat. Yeah, I mean, let's move on to privacy because I am about to flash a Pixel 3 with graphene. And do some mixing of my own because, but I mean, until this point, I've just I'm in the middle of fucking nowhere. I've got, our property isn't even on Google Maps. If you have the property name, no delivery driver can find us. I always have to go and meet them somewhere at the main road because they just can't look it up on their more sophisticated systems. So I'm kind of like, well, if you want to come and try to take it from me, come and find me.
Yeah. I suppose it's more if you're in the middle of nowhere and you have the confidence that, okay, I know about my key security and I understand all those things, and maybe they're placed geographically or maybe it's multi-sig or whatever someone's setup is. I think the thing is that we don't know who gets this information. These exchanges store our information, our KYC information. We know they get hacked. We know whatever information is stored by these companies eventually gets hacked and it's sold on the dark net. And we don't know who gets it. So probably not someone like you or I, but really high profile people, if someone's thinking, well, I've just seen a couple of hundred or 1,000 coins move, you could have some seriously nasty people turn up. And that's the concern. If you're spending, which I guess is not something that either of us are probably interested in doing for a long time, but just to have those coins cleaned and break that heuristic, break that link, I guess it's just, it puts you at ease a little bit more is really the thing.
I completely get that. I think partly because I only have so much time to devote to my Bitcoin study because of having a toddler, because of having a life that needs maintaining,
Yeah.
And also because I felt like it's still early days. Things are still being worked out. I still believe I have time to kind of wait for slightly better UX maybe to come in. But also, a lot of my optics are naturally based on the kind of environment I'm in. And so it's because I'm living here that I've become much more of an libertarian or anarchist than anything else. It's because, of the self-sovereign life that I'm living. And that also affects my views on privacy, because I've got two very intimidating dogs. When my dogs are out, we stay out at night and sometimes in the daytime. The very occasional unfortunate hikers should hike past. They get pinned to the spot. They're not allowed to move by my dogs. As I said earlier, also, I do make preparations for low probability outcomes. So I feel like I'm pretty well protected if somebody should try a £5 wrench attack.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is just thinking these things through. And although they are low probability, it's important to think through them. And because otherwise, even though it is low probability, I've, especially at the beginning, I had sleepless nights because I'm thinking, it's not about me. It's about protecting those around me. And, I've got a dog. He would probably pin a fly to the wall, but anything much bigger than that, he's going to struggle with.
Even when he's fully grown, he's not exactly an intimidating size, is he?
No, he is not. He is not. So, that is a concern. Once you have multi-sig and once you have things placed geographically and once you've thought these things through, you just feel more comfortable. I think that's the thing. It's just that feeling of feeling more comfortable. And the next step for me is breaking the link. So it feels even more comfortable because it's like, well, even if someone is trying to find me, then they don't know who they're trying to find. That's the thing with like Samurai. And so you were saying you're setting up this Pixel 3. That's a brilliant tool. That's just, it's so good.
God bless Matt Odell. I've got the video queued up, the tutorial, and it's just about finding enough time during a toddler's nap. Kind of do it. But how do you feel? I mean, obviously you are. I'm a fucking nobody, I don't. Even when I was in the music industry, I did my utmost to never be. That's why I chose a career as a writer instead of as an artist. I never wanted the spotlight. I was lucky enough to. Again, this is not an excuse to kind of humble brag, but I was lucky enough to win a lot of industry prizes over the years. But I never created a website or did any interviews to do with these awards. I actively discouraged anything that would. I mean, probably quite dumb.
No, well, I don't know.
In a business sense, because I could have probably, if I banged my own drum a lot more, I might have generated some more business. But I'm not on Twitter to gain a following or create a brand or anything like that. So it's very easy for me to be secure with my privacy. But somebody like you who's much more public than I am. How do you, and I presume you live in some kind of town or city. How do you square that circle?
Yeah, it's something I actually struggle with on a daily basis, to be honest with you. I ummed and ahed about creating content for a long time because I'm the same. Like, I have a very, very small circle of friends. I like my own time. I definitely don't like being in the public eye. I hate all that kind of anyone really knowing my business. I like to be private. I tried writing for a while because I thought that was easier actually to protect my identity, but I'm a horrible writer. Yeah, it's awful. I've tried. I've written a few blog posts and things, but I'm heavily dyslexic. It just doesn't.
Oh, okay.
You know, there are definitely people who can write better, and for me, verbalizing. Yeah, it's definitely not. I can verbalize things much better than writing. Yeah. So, I did. I went back and forth with it, and in the end, I thought, well, do I believe that this can make the world a better place? And I do, strongly. Do I want to help people, and do I want to make a change in this world? And yes, I do. What sort of man am I if I let fear control me? And I thought about, you know, what my grandparents been through and fighting in wars and you know, the problems they've had to go through to make some form of freedom. And I know that obviously things aren't exactly how we want them, but we do live in a relatively free country at the moment. And, you know, we generally say what we want and do what we want. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. And I see it sliding the other way, and quite fast. I want children, and I don't want to pass the world onto them where it's kind of going a bit 1984 for me. So I've taken that approach of just saying, well, it's probably not the brightest thing to actually be public. I'm trying to obscure my identity to some degree, but I'm sure anyone can find out who I was very, very easily because I'm not that technical. But also, I'm not that wealthy, so people would have much better targets. It is a worry, but like I say, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to let fear control my life, and I do want to make changes to the world. I want to, when I die, I want to be able to look back and say, I did my best. I think that's important.
It's a really interesting one, and it's a difficult one for many people, I think. But I was talking to Daniel Prince, big up Dan.
Yeah,
this was off mic. I don't think we ever got to chat on about it on his Once Bitten pod. But he was saying to me, basically he was saying a similar thing to what you're saying, is that on balance, it's more important for him to educate and to spread the message than it is to remain private.
Yes,
but again, and again, this is very much built on the life that I've built for myself and the kind of freedom that I've managed to carve out for our family. It's just, I feel so self-sovereign. I shill loads to all those I love and care about, and who I trust will never, talk too much about what I've got or don't have. But I enjoy just being able to say whatever I like on Twitter.
Yeah.
And of course, and my in-laws can vouch for this, because I say so many things that they probably cringe over, because they're much more like, oh, this is a salad fork job, instead of I just go straight in with the dinner fork.
Yeah.
Metaphorically speaking. So, but yeah, if I wanna say, like, I don't know how much I stacked one day, I want to be able to say it without worrying about it.
Yeah, and we should be, right. I mean, if you really think about it, like, what are we doing? Like, we're two guys who have earned money. We worked hard. We think that the current money is shit, and we think there's a better option that not only is going to keep us, store our value better, but also it's better for the world, and we're buying that for that reason. Like, I don't think that makes us bad people. And if we can't be open about it, there's something wrong. I feel.
No, 100%. And as I said, I would probably be like that regardless. However, I live in a part of the world, albeit beautiful and abundant in all sorts of food and with very nice people and a very nice culture. It's also, root level, very poor. It is still a agricultural culture and community in many respects. And again, we're talking low probability thesis here, but if this next few years become as bad as they have potential to be, it will really be felt here. And I did start around, what would that have been? Christmas 18, it would have been. It was probably spring 19, after the Gilets jaunes had really started. They'd had a few months of demonstration. I started basically going to some of the roundabouts where they were putting up blockades and sort of congregating. Both as a way of having an excuse to speak French, but also mainly to kind of add a bit more fuel to that proverbial fire. I have this feeling that, and I think it's more than feeling. I think it's actually fact that both the left and the right are tugging at the same loose jumper or same loose thread on the jumper, but from different sides. One from the inside of this jumper, one from the outside. I mean, both lots of people are clocked onto the right thing. Lots of people, they know that government is a fucking shambles, that the system is rigged for the few. You know, lots of truths that are being shared, but have very, very polarized ideas of how to fix it. And I just thought, what better thing to do than go to some people that are really politically motivated, really driven to make a difference, enough to go and demonstrate and explain Bitcoin to them, and explain to them that, I think the stat that was going around at the time was that if 20% of people took out all their savings of the majority of banks in Europe, there would be basically the bank would default. So I started having some of these chats. It's really quite esoteric to begin with, isn't it? I mean, it's money in itself is it's such an abstraction that just getting through some of the most basic things was a challenge, particularly with the slight bit of language barrier there is, because I'm still super fluent. And then I sort of started thinking about my low probability kind of outcome of all of this. And I was thinking, do I want all these people to know that I'm 6'4", blonde? I definitely stand out already. Do I want them to know that this face is the Bitcoiner if shit really hits the fan?
Probably not.
I just chickened out a bit.
Yeah, I think it's wise for sure. You're definitely not wrong. And it does make us targets, you know, even having this conversation now, it makes us targets. I guess it's just balancing that risk, isn't it? It's trying to find the sweet spot where you can still talk to people about something you're interested in, still try and make a change, but also not put yourself too much out there. So, it's a real balance. And I guess we have to kind of see how things turn out. I would think that if things really heated up, a lot of people will just go dark because, you know, at the moment, all the governments and banks and everyone are playing nice, because I honestly, I really don't think they see us as too much of a threat. I don't think that they see Bitcoin really yet as so much of a threat, because I don't think many of them have wrapped their head around it. When they do, and when things, and I say when, because I really do see it as like an inevitability that it's like, it's a better product. More people are going to go for it, especially as the money printer has to go burr. Like there's, everything is sort of set up perfectly. There's probably going to be a certain point where they get nasty, and that is a concern.
Well, I think we might be underestimating how many of them get it. I mean, I think certainly, do you see that clip of Putin who was asked about cryptocurrency?
Oh yeah, he knows.
I say crypto because that's the actual word that was used. It's worse than the other C word.
I agree.
Yeah, and Justine Lagarde, she's been saying several things that allude to the fact that she gets it. But I think you're absolutely right about the fact that they're underestimating it. I think with all of them, and I noticed this with a lot of the academics that I know as well, a few of them in my family and very, very successful, there is just this normalcy bias. And because they've had it locked down for so long, they just can't see the alternative. I mean, most people, they don't even realize that the dollar hasn't always been, global money. I mean, obviously not of the people that have studied it, but, there's just a lot of people that think that things will never change beyond what they know, because that just seems too utopian or whatever.
It's how it's always been. It's how it will always be, and that is and people don't have the time to think about it. Is the other thing.
It's like Henry Ford was saying, wasn't it? Was that if my clients had asked me or had told me if I'd asked them what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse.
He would have been a Bitcoiner.
Yeah.
Did you see his quote? The other quote about it's something along the lines of, it's well enough that the average person does not understand the banking system, but if they did, there would be a revolution before the morning.
Yes, and he was also the guy who said that actually the best kind of money would be some kind of energy-based money, wasn't it? Am I making that up?
Someone definitely said it, and it may well have been him. I think you're right.
But as you're saying, he would definitely have been a Bitcoiner.
Yeah, he got it. I mean, and that's so amazing that from that long ago, people knew something's wrong, and it still hasn't changed. So, I think it's going to be a pretty crazy few years coming up. And if you look out,
fascinated.
If you look out from what you predict or what you think, or even what you hope. I mean, you said, and I'm very similar myself. You're an emotional person. You're a big thinker and a dreamer, and I imagine you have a sort of dream of how you want this world to look. And I imagine that you can see that happening through Bitcoin. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here and spending this sort of time with it.
100%.
What do you see? What do you hope for?
Oh man, that's a big question.
It is.
I'm hoping for a much more egalitarian kind of world. One that is truly based on merit, but one where the rules of the game is the same for everyone. I'm hoping for a world that is much more productive and where quality is the focus of this productivity. A fairer world. I mean, it's. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, freedom, more freedom above all. I think to. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's an
unfairly broad question, really.
Well, yeah, I don't think I've ever tried to articulate it really, because it's so huge and it encompasses so many things. And there are so many sort of like second order effects of the first order changes and whatever. But yeah, I don't know. How about yourself? What have you been thinking?
Very similar. I mean, you just said there, basically you want a meritocracy. You want there to be more freedom and for there to be more quality when you boil it all down. For me, before I found Bitcoin and before I started doing my art and I was doing what I was before, I became very, very depressed, and a very unstable person because the world that I saw around me was, it felt completely wrong. And I felt that there was all this, the things that really mattered weren't valued, and the things that really shouldn't be valued were valued very highly, and that true honesty wasn't valued, and that there was all this plastic shit that people were buying and showing off to people they didn't care about. And it just felt like this crazy rat race that had no point to it. I just remember like clearly just thinking, what is the point in this? What is the fucking point? I didn't see that things would change. And I thought, this is just not for me. What I want to see is just that there is more freedom, that we build some really incredible things, that it isn't just about what's the latest iPhone that has a camera that's 0.5% better and a battery life that's slightly better. And, like, I want to see some really amazing stuff. I want to see us trying to help with people starving, and I want to help us be able to create things that are actually going to make the world a more interesting and creative place, not just people sat in cubicles punching in data that doesn't matter, so that a few people at the head of a corporation can get a few more hookers and cocaine on the weekend. Like it doesn't matter. It's bullshit. Like you said earlier as well, like those family values, and people be able to spend time with their family, not work 2 or 3 jobs and end up so stressed through financial problems and just sleep deprivation that it breaks down the families and people relying on state. I basically see 1984 as something completely realistic that could come if we don't fix it.
It's already here.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be an early sort of pass, an early run of 1984, but it's already there. I mean, particularly, I don't know if particularly, but I very much felt it in the UK.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just the amount of surveillance. Again, I feel like this whole Corona situation has kind of come as a godsend in a certain way, in that it's for people that haven't spent a lot of time really dissecting the system and society we're living under and in. I think that they have seen a few things in this mirror, this proverbial mirror that I was talking about COVID being. And, from the things I was talking about, a decoupledness from nature, or how unsovereign city life is, or how little money people earn and are able to save to weather these sort of events, or how dependent our nation states have become on outsourcing, in hunt for more profit, and how all of a sudden, if there is actually a need, there is a political way, when most of the time they're saying computer says no. And also this thing that again, referenced Marty Bent, talking about how as a society and an economy, we are this rider of a bike, that has to keep pedaling. Because if you stop for 2 weeks, you are kissing the asphalt. Yeah. Or how wildly we consume, or how much we take the comfortable life for granted, or, there's just so much that I'm hoping that people will really kind of reflect on and start growing some fucking balls.
Yeah, I think that's the key, is people do need to do that. They need to look at what is around them or what's happening and grow up there. Maybe it's become too easy life. Maybe it's all of just a bit too easy and people have lost their backbone. But I think you're right. Maybe this will highlight that, what the fuck are we all doing? What are we doing?
I think maybe maybe this is maybe I'm reaching, but in a certain sense, I can see COVID being a bit of a sort of like Bitcoin for normies in terms of realization, because all of a sudden, this is a place where we've been, but maybe for them, this is the chance to rethink how we treat each other, or the kind of society we're living in, or how we're looking after our planet, or what sort of system we want to be part of. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe they haven't had that kind of opportunity to reflect on these things before.
A lot of it's time, people don't have a lot of time, and they're sort of so emotionally, physically and mentally drained that when they come home, they flick on the TV, watch some bullshit, open a bottle of wine, drown their sorrows, go to bed, and they start it all over again. maybe this has given them a little bit of time, like you say, just to think. So it'll be interesting to see.
I do think that I'm completely with you. Sometimes I also really wish it would happen quicker. But I'm also with the. Have you spent much time listening or reading Jeff Booth?
I haven't actually, no.
So, Price of Tomorrow. My wife and I, we're doing it on audiobook because we are romantic like that in the evening.
That's nice.
And yeah, and he's just he's an incredible mind, and very, very eloquent and articulate. And if Preston Pish did a fantastic pod with
he's
him.
Great. Okay.
Oh yeah, I got a bit of an intellectual crush on Preston Pish, and also Jeff Booth. He's been on. What else has he been on? Rapid Fire. Okay. Again, I have a lot of time for John. Yeah. Anyway, he's fantastic, but I think saying also is what I've been fearing is that the kind of place Bitcoin really takes off and really thrives is likely to be a pretty tumultuous, pretty volatile world.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's when everything crumbles, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's probably no getting away from that, sadly. That's part of the reason, people laugh at preppers, but the reality is that this will probably happen very quickly. It'll be that gradually, then suddenly, and then it leaves everyone scrambling. It's going to be a weird sort of 10, 15 years, I'd imagine, but it could even be quicker than we all expect. It's amazing, when you see number go up and it's really going, people just pile in. The numbers we saw in 2017 were, they're reasonably big numbers, but they're nothing really. It's a drop in the ocean. If this really takes off and we see some big players step in, or nation states or that kind of stuff, things can get crazy very, very quickly. We can see green candles that would just rip your face off.
I wouldn't. I can't say I'd mind seeing a little $10,000 daily candle.
It's coming for sure. It has to.
I'm getting slightly chubby just thinking about it.
Can you imagine that? And just wake up and you just look at that happening 10,000 a day. I do think it's realistic.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, I absolutely do. And I mean, you were, by the sounds of it, you were part of the 17 bull market as well, and just seeing that go up again and again and again. I mean, it was hard to not be glued to the ticker the whole time because it was going so mad. But even then, I knew that it wasn't worth selling for me. Even then, although I was only in it maybe 4, 5, 6 months at that point, even then I knew that this is not a play, if you know what I mean. This is not
this is
something
a long
where
term.
I'm getting out at some point.
Yeah, it's a long term thing. Well, for me, I didn't even see that. I've only ever seen a bear market. So,
really?
Yeah. So I actually made my first purchase. Like, I started looking at it a little bit before, but I actually made my first purchase after we had a 30% dip from the top, because I'm used to property. And so I was just like, well, 30% dip, that's probably not a bad time to jump in. The
14K January 18 time.
And then just all I saw was it drop and drop and drop, but I carried on reading. I carried on learning. I got to a point where I was like, I wasn't really concerned. I was like, I really just hope this goes back down to 1,000. That's what I was hoping for. I was just like, I just keep going, just whatever I could, keep buying. And so I've actually never seen a run, and I've never sold anything. And the same as you, I never will. It's too important to be fucking around with.
Well, I mean, I don't ever say never, because I do have. I feel like I've stacked so much over the last few years that if Bitcoin is all of a sudden 150,000, I don't mind selling a coin or two but not to like buy a fucking Lambo or buy any of the £2,000 coats that I used to wear when I lived in London. Absolutely ridiculous when you think about it now.
Yeah.
Such a fucking bell end. But I mean, there's so many things I do here, or just like get help to do, like buy in some manpower to do the extension I'm planning in less time that it would take me on my own, or do you know what I mean? I wouldn't ever say no, but definitely like my stash is for the long term for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. We can say never, but I think it's probably quite difficult when you see these sort of crazy numbers in front of you.
Yeah, and also as I humbly keep trying to remind myself, I carry this with me, so it's not something I have to remind myself of. But and I think it's something like this. I have this as my pinned tweet as well. But this is, I'm stacking for my son. I don't know if you've heard this Native American kind of philosophy of planning for 7 generations ahead.
Yes.
I'm determined to create a fucking legacy, and that's I'm creating a legacy of love. The love I have for my wife and the relationship I want my son to see that two people can have. I'm creating a legacy of sound choices, right decisions, of personal responsibility. But also it's to secure the freedom that I've built. I have a sister who was in a car accident and still has brain trauma issues. I'm stacking for her. I'm stacking for my friends who have rubbish partners who they might want to or need to leave. I'm stacking for my parents' very old age. You know what I mean? This is Bitcoin. I'm sure most Bitcoiners feel the same. It becomes about so much more than just yourself.
I think that's very powerful. And I think that's actually a good place to end it, is that you are stacking for love. And that's what it's all about. It's all about love. Wow. It's been a really, really nice conversation. It's been great chatting to you off Twitter and getting to know you a little bit better. It's been a great episode. Before we close out, is there anything else that you'd like to touch on that we haven't? Anyone you want to hear from? You're criminally underfollowed on Twitter. So
I don't know about that.
At hodler than thou. That's Sir Badminton of Bitcoin. But anything you'd like? Sorry, go on.
No. That's just I don't have anything more to add, really. The hodler than thou is just a reference to my old holier than thou socialist self. No, I don't have anything to add other than anybody who should have listened through these 2 hours of this lowly pleb ranting. I feel very grateful. I feel great for you to wanting to speak to me in the first place. But also just so much love to the Bitcoin community, whether you exist or not. It's just a constant source of inspiration and affirmation and just, it's the fucking business, isn't it?
It is. All right. Awesome. Well, I'm going to put your handle in the show notes, and we will end on that. Everyone who's listening, stack for love.
And maybe see you in the Citadel sometime.
100%.